Hello everyone. In this tutorial, I'm going to be walking us through on how to draft the basic bodice pattern. The importance of the basic bodice cannot be overemphasized. The reason is that most of the garments, most of the patterns that involve the top half of the body is derived from the basic bodice. My name is Fatima Olanipekun, and I am the CEO of Al-Mithaaliyah Ventures. Now, moving forward, the measurements that are going to be required for the basic bodice, we have horizontal measurements, we have vertical measurements, and there are some measurements that are actually derived. Then, to move on to the horizontal measurements, we have the shoulder span, which is from one shoulder blade to the other, one bust point to the other. Then we have vertical measurements, and those ones are actually measurements that are taken from the neck area here, so downwards. So we have from the nape of the neck here to the bust points. We have from the nape of the neck to the waistline. And then we have slope. The slope is actually a standard measurement based on body size. So some body size we use a slope of 1 inch, and some we use 1.5. I think the maximum you can use is 1.5 inches. The slope is used for feet actually. If you notice here, the nape of the neck is higher than the shoulder blade. So a slope like this is derived such that by the time the dress is sewn, it is going to fall neatly on the shoulder, as in it is going to follow this shoulder line neatly. And then we have another measurement. That's one you can actually measure it or derive it, and that is the chest line, and some people call it arm side. That is the length from here to the armpits. So some call it chest line, some call it arm side. So you can measure it actually, or you derive it from the back width. So now moving on to drafting our basic bodies. Okay, moving forward to drafting our basic bodies, we're going to be starting with the back bodies. And to do that, we'll need to impute our measurements in steps. So we are going to first impute all the vertical measurements. So the first vertical measurement we're going to be imputing is the chest line. So I told you that the chest line can be measured or derived, but here I'm going to be using a derived measurement, and I'm going to derive it from the shoulder. And our shoulder is 15. So to get your chest line, you simply divide the shoulder width by 2, which is 7.5. And also remember we talked about slope, so we need to include the slope into our chest line. So our slope is 1 inch, and the chest line that we have derived is 7.5. So we're going to have 8.5 downwards, like so. I'm going to have 8.5 downwards, like so. We just connect the dots. So in order not to make this video too long, I'm going to, the same that I have done for the chest line, I'm going to do for the bust point and also the half length, which is the waist length. That is the waist length. So the bust point I'm going to be working with here is 10 inches, and the half length is 17 inches. Now I have inserted all my vertical measurements. Now let me label the lines so as to make our explanation clearer. Here we have the chest line. Let's label it CHL. The bust point will label it BP, and the waistline will label it like so. So the next thing we are going to do is that we are going to impute our horizontal measurements. So here, the first one is the shoulder width. If we divide the shoulder width by 2, we have 7.5. You know, we are only working with the half part of the bodies. So, and then we'll now come to the chest line and impute 7.5, like so. Then you connect the line. So another important thing that we need to do in this area is to mark our slope length, which is 1 inch. So now we need to impute our vertical measurements, which is the bust is 36. If we divide the 36 by 4, we have 9 inches. So we'll now come to the chest line and then impute our 9 inches like so. We'll now come to the waistline. Our waist measurement here is 30 inches. If we divide 30 inches, if we divide it by 4, we'll have 7.5. We'll now come to the waist area and insert 7.5 inches like so. And then we'll now connect the line. So the next thing we are going to do is that we'll insert our darts, and the average dart measurement for an average adult for the back bodies is 1 inch. So how to insert the dart is that we already have our apex. We are going to be using our apex to insert to make the dart construction. We are going to be using the apex to make the dart construction, and for the apex we have 7 inches. We'll now come to the chest line here. We'll divide that 7 inches divided by 2, which is we will now be left with 3.5. So we will mark 3.5 at the chest line. We'll come to the waistline and also mark 3.5 inches, and then we'll now connect the line like so. So the amount of darts, which is 1 inch, we'll divide it equally on either side of this dart line. So we have 1 inch. We'll mark ½ inch on one side, and then mark half inch on the other side. So we'll mark it ½ inch like so, ½ inch like so. We'll now come to the top here, that is at the chest line. We'll come down by 1 inch and then connect the line, connect the dart line like so. Let me use red marker for clarity. Connect the darts like so. In creating this dart, you know, darts while sewing, darts are meant to be taken in while sewing. So if we leave it like this, you know, our waistline, our waist circumference is 7.5, and we have already taken in 1 inch at the waistline. If we leave it like this without returning that 1 inch to the side seam, this is going to actually reduce our waist circumference, which is not going to create a problem. So now we are going to take that 1 inch that we have taken in at the dart area. We'll now return it to the side seam like this. It's actually very, very simple. And then connect it to the bust measurement like this. So in doing so, we are done with the with the bottom area of the basic bodies. Now we'll now move to the neckline and the armhole. To draw the armhole, We'll come to the arm side, that is the depth, that is the armhole depth. We have 7.5. We'll now divide it by 2. So that is going to give us 3.75. 3.75. So from this 3.75, we'll now use curve to connect it to the bust measurement like so. You can also use your hand, but this is just for accuracy. Okay, now to draw the neckline, the neckline has 2 parts. It has the neck depth and the neck width. So the standard neck depth is 1 inch for any garment, even if it is for a child or an adult. The standard neck depth is 1 inch, and the neck width varies. The neck width, the average neck width for adults is 3 inches, but it could be 3.5 or 4 depending on the body size. So now connect the dots with a curve like so. So after drawing the neckline, we'll now connect the nape of the neck here. We'll connect it to the shoulder slope like this. So this brings us to the end of the back bodies pattern drafting. So now we're going to move on to draft the front bodies. I have gone ahead to mark out the necessary measurement. That is the measurement that is common to both bodies, so as not to make this video unnecessarily long. So now let's start from the dart. The front waist dart, the average front waist dart is actually 7.5 inches for an average adult. I should have even drawn the dart line, but let me quickly do that. Our dart, our apex is 3.5 at the bust point. The dart line for the front body is going to be starting from the bust point. You know that of the back bodies started from the chest line, but for the front, this is another difference actually. So, but for the front bodies, it is going to start from the bust point. So we'll mark 3.5 here at the bust point, and then mark 3.5 at the waistline, and then connect the points like so. So now, you know, I said that that amount is 1.5 inches. So like we did with the back bodies, we'll now divide it into 2, which is going to give us 0.75 on each side. That is half and a quarter. So we'll mark that on either side of the darts. We'll now come to the bust point here and come down by 1 inch, just like we did with the back bodies, and then draw our dart line like so. And then we'll now need to return this 1.5 inch to the side seam to avoid errors and mistakes. We'll now return it like so. So here we are done with the lower part of the bodies. Now coming to the upper part, we will now draw our neck width, the standard neck width, and then the next standard neck depth is also 3 inches, or it could be more depending on the body side, on the body size. So now we will now connect the line with a curve like so. Connect the line with the curve like so. After doing that, we'll connect our shoulder line. Now we need to draw the armhole. So now we'll come to our armhole depth, which is 7.5. We'll divide it by 2. Then at this area, that is at the midpoint here, we'll now come in. Oh, this is also depending on the bust size of the individual. But for average bust size, like from 34, 36, 38, you'll come in by 0.75 inch. But for any bust size that is higher than this, you come in by 1 inch, and the one that is lower than the numbers I've mentioned, you come in by ½ inch. But for this bust size, which is 36 inches, you'll be coming in by 0.75. So now we'll now connect the shoulder blade here to this midpoint, and from here we'll now draw a curve to meet this. This here isn't actually a straight, it is a little bit curved, so don't make it a straight line. It is a little bit curved like so, and then we'll now use a curve to connect it to the bust area like this. So you see the differences. The armhole area here is deeper than that of these are the little things that make a bodice to be perfectly fitted. So they are different at the armhole area, and then the bust intake, and the dart intake are also very, very different. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly subscribe to my channel. This is going to encourage me to do more videos, and also hit the notification button so that you can be notified anytime I post a video. Thank you so much.